So thank you for coming to the Black Creative Handbook studio visit. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So, quickly, my name is INxSANIxTY. Real name INxSANIxTY. Contemporary visual artist from the home of the great Peckham.
Okay. So, you know, the Black Creative Handbook is all about the process stories. Even though we love the success what you have, but we want to talk about the process.
Yeah.
So let's go back. When was there a day when you thought you were going to be an artist for life?
So it happened in like multiple layers, if that makes sense. So I would say I did it in science. So first off, I always knew how to paint and draw, but to a level where I just consider it what I was doing as opposed to this is gonna lead somewhere. Then there was a change of people really think I'm good. I wouldn't say any of these times would have been the time I decided that. Then there was people that knew it was good, and so there was a commitment. Okay, these are the two times. One, there was a commitment where this is what I was going to do, where I had to acknowledge that one, I may not be successful about it. Two, even when successful, especially because of it's an art form, most people would think it's lucky or it's stuff like that. So I wouldn't get my full credit really. So I accepted all the negative that comes with it and still chose to want to do it. Then is the second part where I felt like it chose me back in the sense where I got opportunities that I feel like it takes people years and years to walk to get, and I just happened to be blessed enough to be there at the time to show whatever I do, then it worked out for me. So I'll say the mixture of one, when I chose it, which would have been maybe 2014, and when it chose me back, which would probably be 2017.
What was the difference when it was choosing you or when you was chose back? If you know
so what I mean? When it was choosing me, I had just audacity. That's about it. Audacity, and to a level, I never really count skill or talent as a thing that you can get. I really count it as, because people can have skills and talent and not really want to do it or not really be good at it or whatever. But for me, audacity makes the difference. So at the time, I just had audacity in terms of daring to do and somehow tell people that I'm an artist and them actually believing and actually being very ambitious for no reason. So that's the first part where I was on choosing. And also at the time, I had not enough evidence to commit to wanting to do this. So it was a fate-based decision. Well, when they started choosing me was like when I got my first article in, New York Times, or like when these lots came to shout me to come and do Peckham level, all of that stuff. So yeah, that the second part was where I saw reaction from the community and other things go my way and stuff. So that's when I chose.
So it seems like you have been chosen, because look at your studio room. So as an artist myself, or an interdisciplinary artist, which I've just learned recently from you, which I am now, I've just changed. How important is your creative environment for you to produce?
It's a way. Okay, so I would still answer it in two. Everything I'm going to answer is going to be in twos. So on one hand, it doesn't really matter because I tried to create work. So when I first started creating, I wanted material not to be enough to restrict me, environment not to be enough to restrict me, hell, even my own mental thought not enough to restrict me. So the way I create art, a lot of it just comes from creating. So sometimes I didn't have canvases, I started painting on wood and stuff like that. Other times I didn't have, I wanted to make sculptures and I just used paper and tape, and there's a lot of, regardless of the situation, I can get chalk and paint on the ground. The actual essence of actually needing to create and create, I get that done, period, regardless. But in terms of the best quality of work I can produce, in terms of being able to actually tell a story or have meaning behind my work and certain things, then environment matters because I'm highly influenced by people, if that makes sense. So my work is conversation. So I might be painting, have a conversation with somebody, I might be putting some music, the talks that go on, everything around me kind of somehow finds its way into my art. So in that aspect, it's important that my environment actually reflects what I want to talk about, or at least pushes me or shows up its face in my work every now and then. But ultimately, in terms of being able to create, I try and create this weird utopia where nothing can actually obstruct the creation. It's more like everything around it. So
tell us about, how did you orchestrate your studio Tell us about that.
This is a bit of a, this place I have a bit of bittersweet. Like I love it and I don't really love it anymore as much. Like the part that I love it is my actual artwork in the space. The space, is. I mean, I will say what it is. Most people, when they think of a place like Peckham Level, they think of all the negative press that's come with it. And generally in Peckham, the gentrification is quite evident in that sense. And if you ask me, I don't think all of the corporations, including this building, saying that as part of the members of the building, are going all the way in terms of what they can do to make sure that they are kind of dealing with the community and doing certain things. So in that aspect of it, it's a bit, you have the bittersweet going in there and feeling like you're part of the other side sometimes. But if we talk about the actual place where I've called 212 my own actual space, it's a mixture of my personality spilled into my work, if that makes sense. So a lot of how I kind of set it up was when I first came in, I wanted to have like an evidence of my past going into my future. So behind you there's a kind of like a painting mural wall painting piece that was also made like literally the first piece of artwork I did. Then obviously I have like my workspace where I calculate things and do a little bit of paperwork here and there.
Okay.
And then I have my paint station, which will be on the other side there, where I have bits and bobs there. And I have a minimum, like I was very resourceful in the way I set up the studio in terms of maximizing space. So I've got a mini storage on the back. I've got another mini storage for like paintings and stuff like this. But yeah, ultimately the place kind of has a bit of me in there, a bit of like my work in there, has cool factors in there. You can see some of my beautiful collections. I can't really talk too much about the trainers, just know I designed them and yeah, a little some. Yeah, what else do we have here? You got those cool things. You got my record collection actually. I'll give you a little peek of what Sunny listens to. Got Michael Jackson.
Yeah, vinyl. So where's your vinyl? Oh, yeah, vinyl.
Yeah, we gotta do it old school sometimes.
Big Bad. Who's that?
Gigs.
So yeah, I should have known that. Saw it and I was like, oh.
Someone's repping today, I guess. Someone's repping today, but I had to. This is not actually a CD in there, but I'm gonna get a CD. It's from one of my running arounds with Nike, and I don't know if I should even have this, but I have it nonetheless.
It's here now. It's here now.
Childish Gambino. We got Fela Kuti, the great fella.
So why do you listen to vinyl while you're playing?
Yes.
While you're painting. Sorry.
Yes, I do. Sometimes it works better to put the vinyl player instead of like CDs or YouTube, just because of the skipping, and sometimes, yeah, the internet is not the best. So just put the vinyl players in and just forget that you've put there. And also it gives you like an old feel. So sometimes I do the whole shebang, make myself tea, put some waters on my plants, put this in, maybe go outside and smoke, and then by the time I come back it's like a whole vibe's created. Put some incense. And so yeah.
Okay.
We got a bit of, you know what I mean? We got Stevie Wonder here too. We got the Wailers. Wait, hold up. I'll show you something. Most people don't have this, they just do the talk, they don't actually have that.
Oh.
And also, it's a special edition too. I ain't even come here out to be doing this, but sometimes you gotta do these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like how he's positioning himself very, very forward.
As you should. Also, I'll have you know that Prince is a Gemini, so I do share things with him every now and then. I realize that we're both messed up. Okay.
So my next question was talking about your artistic influences. Could you name a few? Obviously, you have the Great Prince here, but onto your physical artwork.
So the Great Prince, like Michael Jackson, music has played a huge role. But if I'm being totally honest, the way I'm influenced or what influences me comes from more everyday regular people rather than from other artists. And I wouldn't even say Prince has an influence in my work. I just kind of relate to him as a person and the way he treats his art and how he is. The people I would say have influence in my work. Let's see. It would be, I think, Kanye West, I can say. And it's a little, so I'll explain it. It's never really the look visually. I don't think my work looks like anything really, period. But Kanye West's ability, or like not ability, when I was younger as a person, identity wise, Kanye West made it okay for me to know what other people didn't know. If that makes sense. So
explain it, break it down.
I was able to know that
podcast, break it down.
Yeah, I was able to know, like I had this thing of like at home, my siblings or everyone will always know someone that's good as me in whatever I'm doing, or better than me. For them, I mean, I didn't believe them, but they would always tell me that. And outside, everybody would always be like, "Oh, you're so good. This is amazing," and whatever. So in a lot of ways, I stopped listening to people when I was very young, because the people I cared the most about didn't really rate it, and the ones I didn't care about rated it. So I just thought these ones align and these ones align. So I had to go inside me to kind of find my, is this good? Is this not good? And in a lot of ways, I think I'm very confident in the, oh, this is good or this is not good. And as time went on, I kind of realized like that is a problem for some people, and people like Kanye West makes it okay to be like one of the few people that like know without feeling some type of way, if that makes sense. So it's like, okay, I made this, I know it's cool. I don't actually need to ask people if they think it's cool. By the time I show people the work and everybody loves it, it doesn't really add to my work. I might be like, oh yeah, I know it's good. Or like when people compliment me on like my, oh, these are really fine. I'm like, I try. It's not in an arrogant way. It's almost like in a, I knew, and it was okay to know.
So I'm that confident.
Yeah,
that
just to know. Yeah,
that you know that once you're 100% committed, you're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just know that like, oh, this is like what you've done is good. It doesn't mean you're the greatest artist or you're even a great artist. It just means this particular work that you're putting there, and people are like, oh, this is really cool. Sometimes my attitude is, oh, thank you. I knew it would be cool. That's why I did it. If that makes sense, like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I shared something with you. I did an exhibition early this year, and Kassandra, it's really good. I'm like, I felt it sometimes it's like an insult. Like, you know my character, you know that I wouldn't do something half-assed.
Yeah.
So why are you acting like you're like you're surprised? I wouldn't spend all this effort if it's going to be half-assed.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's part of. So I took like earlier. I mean, we were talking about this. Like when I first started, one of the things I used to do, which was part of my science to know that this is something I should chase, was going around like places, really messy places like Shoreditch and stuff.
Here we go, I'm talking about East London. All you Southerners, all you South London people.
It's all bands. We love East London too. London's London, man.
You wasn't saying that earlier, folks.
London is London still. But my point is, going Shoreditch, you see all kinds of characters, and I remember just like wanting to tell people I'm an artist and show them my work and it having a reaction. Because usually when you say I'm an artist, first off, they think you're a musician. Then the second layer is like when they think of you as an artist, there is a disconnect between what they may think of an artist. Like, they might think poster art or just certain things, which is still artistic, and those people are still artists in their right, but it's not what I do. And they usually would assume it's that. And so I wanted to be able to like view the expectation in whatever it may be, and be able to show them something that completely flips it around enough to create a wow, kind of, oh, like you're really wow, that's really good. And if I had enough of that, I knew that was good enough to at least show my work, and I did a few of those. So I think that is even like part of the fact of people assuming that you're not as good. Sometimes is even part of the marketing too, because then when they do see it, and it's like, oh wow, where if before you thought it was good and it's cool, now when you see that wow doesn't stop as well. It's like, oh wow, have you seen? It's almost immediately they turn next to the person next to them to show them this thing that, oh, he's really good, or like stuff like that. So yeah.
So it's like making your work undeniable. No matter what happens, no one can't deny the talent or the work has been put into this work. Yeah.
Okay. And in a way, it's a way of like even consuming other arts. Like when I go to places, I don't care so much who did it and whatever. From the work itself, does it bring out anything? And then, build on who the art is, what's their backstory, all of that.
Okay. So, how do you cultivate your audience? How do you attract people to your art?
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to tell you I do this weird stuff and that other stuff, but honestly I don't know. Part of it is I'm grateful for the people that actually had enough time to actually grow with me. Most of it honestly is, until this day I have no clue who's actually, and in my head I'm trying to still create my community of people that actually love what I do and love it. I feel most people are passive participants, if that makes sense. So they
look at it like, hey, that's nice.
Yeah, and
are you invested in the culture? Are you going to pay with your wallet? That's when the best thing for art is the best compliment. You can say, nice artist, I like you, I like on Instagram. But the most compliment, pay. Patronage, people. Patronage.
Absolutely. But yeah, so for me personally, I feel like I'm still in that space where it's like, I mean, I'll never be out of that space. Let's establish that. But so I'm not just sounding like, oh yeah, I just came into world and I have no clue what's going on. What I would say is I've realized over time some people stuck, if that makes sense. So I guess those are my but I don't know what I did in particular to make them stick. What I know I do is every time I have an exhibition, I try and give, and I try and give as much as I can. And every time I have anything to do with art, I try and give. Now, the back end in terms of who's receiving it and if they appreciate it, I can't put my hand in my chest and say that that's happening or they do appreciate it or whatever, because I just never know. There are times where I put something on social media and be like, oh, if you want this, reply to this, and I don't get any replies. There are other times that I'm doing a quick pop-up and I just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a pop-up on my story, and before I know I have 100 people so it's a lot of people, it's a lot of uncertainty in terms of that. And what I try and do is gather data, see what works, do it again. But ultimately, my audience is the world. So I would always keep on actively trying to find new ways to kind of reach out to people. And I tweet it more so, who do I want to reach, more so who's my audience or who wants to reach me.
So your audience, how do you describe them, just from Peckham, or is it worldwide? Give me some places where people bought your art or collected your art.
So luckily enough, my work has fizzled into the right hands, I guess, through word of mouth. I have people buying my work from London, which I really want more to happen, guys. Whoever's watching this, come London. If you're in London, come get my work. But unfortunately, fortunately, and however, but majority of my collectors are international, so I don't really have that much. I have people that buy work here and there, but repeated buyers or most of them are. I have 3 of them in LA and a few of them in Miami and Nigeria. More places I'm more active, if that makes sense.
More vibrant, I guess. More.
Yeah. I guess.
Okay.
I mean, it's also interesting because even the artwork, how my work sells, most of them are 4 years after I make them that sell.
What?
Yeah.
Investment.
I almost never sell my work the same year I make it. It's almost it's weird. I don't know. The 4 years thing, I don't even know where it comes from. I just realized that it's literally 4 years is the mark.
So what I see here, touch wood, gonna be sold in soon. Okay, I should have one.
These ones I just made them, so that's the thing. These ones I just made them, so it means I guess maybe in 4 years they'll sell.
Every leap year stuff. Okay.
And maybe that's what it is. I can't really put a finger on it. It's just something I noticed, and I started that's interesting. Because it's not 4 years, and then by the time we move on, they go back 5 years ago. No, they just stick on the 4 years. So 2014 paintings sold out, and then 2015 paintings started selling, and then 2016 accordingly. It's just weird how bro.
Alright, so tell us then, what is your style? Because you're an interdisciplinary artist, if I can just say the word. What is your style? When I'm looking at your paintings, explain one of your paintings. I'm looking at this one. Is it a woman, right?
It's a guy.
It's a guy. Daisy.
And so
you
that's not finished.
You always have to ask.
That's not finished, so there's not really much explaining to do per se. Let's see what painting is finished in there. Okay, we can use maybe the romanticism. Mm-hmm. Romanticism is finished. Romanticism is a painting that kind of talks about humans fall and benefit in the sense of our ability to always romanticize things and make them more than what they are. So I'll give you a few references and I'll break down the story that way. As a whole, the painting stands with 2 major things that would kind of draw you in. There's a male and a female figure. There's Paris in the background. Paris has, though, to kind of play with the idea of romanticism. Most people think romanticism is it's attached to love in thoughts, but it's actually been an art movement way before they attached it to kind of love. Romanticism has an art movement. It's beautiful in the sense that it creates human and it creates flaws being beautiful and all of this. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, it takes away from reality and in a way how people treat life. So for example, when people fall down, they stand up from the ground as sometimes you got to fall to get up. But really, you don't have to fall down. It's you fell down, you don't like it, and now you have to get up. But we have a way of attaching the negative as though it had to happen before the positive for us to feel like we have control or feel better about the situation. So romanticism in a way is directly attacking that idea of romanticizing things, bringing it back to humanity and being able to do more with it. In the painting, it's actually talking about a male and a female being involved with some sort of abuse. Most people, when I say abuse, they tend to look at the woman assuming, oh, what's he doing to her? But actually, she's the one in this case. And it's not physical abuse, it's more mental. And also, she's not doing it intentionally. It's talking about the basic little tiny pressures that the world has allowed women to have, and in a way can be put onto the man, which can cause a lot of other issues. For example, your wife is always right. That's a terminology or a statement that's always pushed by, and that's just not true. Nobody's 100% right. Oh. And obviously it's not a good mental thing to kind of live with, but we all just kind of accept it for the peace. And the more these little tiny things affect things, we end up finding ourselves in almost like a pressure box where we, it depends on the time. Once the pressure increases, then you feel all the tiny little things that you paid no attention to. And in there is also showing that she's not actually at fault because she doesn't know it. She's a product of the world. So she's accepted these little things as her rights without realizing. And to show you that it's not actually a harmonious painting, if you notice, there's like a cigarette line, obviously doing a bit of urban translation. So that smoke in the air, they smoke. Oh. So you kind of know that it's a negative connotation. And also, if you look right next, there's a fish tank. There's a fish tank with two sharks in it, and to imply that it's a toxic relationship as opposed to both of them against each other. The idea with that is a shark can grow as large as a sea, or its real size that it would be in the sea, but it also can grow as small as a fish, and it's all down to its environment. So if you put a baby shark,
just like a goldfish,
yeah, you put a baby shark in a little ship shark tank, it would be there like a fish. If you move it and put it in a real actual sea, it will go to its full length. So it's almost like saying, while they're trapped in that, they would never really grow to their full potential, and that's the painting in a nutshell.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel a lot. There's so much to digest and so little time. Okay. So we're about the process stories. Yeah. How long is a piece of string? How long does it take you to do a painting? Tell us the materials. How do you get it? Do you draw with pencil? I see this expensive paint. Tell us.
So what I do is basically banter. I'm joking. What I do is go into the studio without a real clue of what I'm going to do. I talk to a lot of people, so the influence is somewhere in there and the inspiration is somewhere in there. Just talk to. I wouldn't necessarily know. I just feel like I need to paint. When I do get to the studio, I put some music. I was talking about it earlier. Create the ambience, put some music on, let it run.
So vibes, you have to be in a state.
A lot of times, yeah, it's almost like impossible to do it without. So even if I was to paint, I'll put some music on, and sometimes in the painting, I have to step back and do like, like a little 1-2 head movement, dancing. Sometimes I don't know. It's almost like I perform while I paint. It's almost like a performance in itself, where it's like I'm in my head, I'm dancing. So that's why I used to go on live before, so people can experience it. I've stopped doing it as much. I might bring it back up, but it's like, just really enjoying my vibe. And by the time I'm done with my vibe, there's a painting at the end.
Wow.
If that makes sense. So through that moment, I'm not paying attention to which color I'm picking, what I'm actually trying to create. I just make very short, quick, intuitive movements, and like, okay, I'm gonna use yellow, red and blue, and I'm not thinking of it before I get to that position of doing, or like, oh, this feels like too much green, I'm gonna go red. Like, I just would do it. And then at the end, I have to ask myself, why did I use that color there? What is this? What is that? What is this? And that's what creates the story behind. So for example, I would already have the full image and be like, oh, why did I put cigarette and smoke there? Oh, of course. If I was talking about a negative thing,
it's like your subconscious and your consciousness
is
just having a conversation,
but
through art.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of things to unpack there. Maybe it's the wrong word. It's not spiritual, but maybe it's spiritual. It's like, I'm thinking like you're creating by faith. You don't know exactly like on a map how you get to your destination, but you know you're going to get to your destination.
Basically, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've done it enough times to trust in the process. But also it's easier. So also another thing is I don't really paint one painting at a time. I tend to, so that's why there's a lot of unfinished paintings. There's like 5 of them. You see, I tend to do 1, 2, 3, or like 2, and then some. I get a new idea, because I used to struggle before with like sticking to what I set out to paint. So what I do now is don't think of what I'm painting, just start painting. And when I get a good idea that goes hand in hand with this, I just pull out another canvas, do that there, and then, you know, continuously until I've like gotten all the ideas together and then start kind of building up the painting. Because, you know, my mind's always everywhere, so it's harder to like stay focused. I think that's just stress. I just let myself.
It's like you're cooking, like you don't, you like you put it on a stew, you wouldn't just boil the water. Like,
yeah.
The thing I do that with poetry, like it's really hard. I get so jealous of people who write poetry in one go.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to let it write a verse, leave it for a couple of days, go back to it, tweak it until it builds. It's like, instead of the metaphor of like you chipping marble to get your thing, I'm adding stones to get the form of what I would like to do.
Basically that.
Yeah. Okay, understood. I have a question about has your style changed over time? Now I can see newspaper, I can see, is it acrylic paint or oil paint?
Oil paint. So I've always used oil paint. Yeah, it's significantly changed. So even romanticism, like I was showing you, is maybe the progression between the older style and the newer style. So before I used to have
What is your style, by the way? So I don't think
it's a hard way to describe it because I don't do figurative, I don't do abstract, I don't do.
But there's some continuity looking at this. There's continuity.
Yeah, but I guess that's
you don't want to be put in a box, do you?
It's not even about the box. So the good thing is you notice that, and I've somehow been able to create my work without ever signing my work. So you look at all of them and you can tell it's my work without actually seeing.
Signature.
Yeah, without me actually telling you it's my work, and it's a feeling. It's also an aesthetic. So aesthetically, if you look at it, I just play around sometimes with a bit of distortion here and there to get people's attention to stay longer. I have the white outlines I do, and I think the most other obvious thing is there's a lot of turban guys or guys wearing turbans and like all of that, and it's just a way of like showing my culture. But ultimately, not every artwork do I put any of those three. Most of them I'll put one of the three, but now I get to do different things like sculptures where it's paper and tape and no painting, and I still get to show my creativity and my style. It has the same aura, the same feeling without it being a painting or anything like that.
You do film as well. Tell us, because now we do sculptures, you do your storytelling, you do your
the list
art.
goes on. The list goes on.
Okay.
No, we can go on. Let's see. Also, there's a difference because I'm very respectful of the craft itself, so I try and separate things I can do with things I do. Things I can do are things that I have maybe the skill to do, but haven't invested enough time practicing, doing well enough. So I wouldn't stand next to someone that does it and be like, oh, because I can do it, we're the same. That's actually, for me, I think is a bit rude to that practice. So things like writing, for example, writing articles is something I can do. Like I've written great articles, I've read it, I like it, but I feel like for me to stand on it the same way I'll stand with like my paintings or sculpting or fashion, I would need to pull out a little bit more contents with not just things I care about, a bigger, wider brand. Like, so for example, with art, you can come, I don't know you from anywhere, have a meeting with you and create something very special to you. With writing, I'm still finding my ways around writing about something I don't care about, which means I can't really call myself a writer, in my opinion. Fashion, to be honest, is weird because under fashion, I would say I was a stylist first, then I started designing, and I've done a whole bunch of stuff in between that. Actually, when I was younger, the actual two jobs I wanted to do was either be a fashion photographer or join the Air Force. So it was like, before I ever thought of art, fashion was like quite high up there in terms of what I wanted to do. So I'm still quite heavy into that. I've got, obviously, I'm not wearing any of them, but you would have seen my trousers. I've showed you some of the trainers I designed. A few hoodies, a few other things that would hopefully come soon, guys. Just, pay attention. Come soon. I'll let you know when that's coming. ABV vibes, but you know all of that. So fashion, I'm still quite heavy into it. The fashion and the art kind of led me into video. So with video, it started off with, in a not so cocky way, but in like a cheeky, think I know it all way. I thought like a lot of things that existed were not really tapping into cool ideas. I think they were quite repetitive. I don't feel like, even like the, sorry, we'll talk about fashion in a few seconds, but like even the display window fronts and even like just certain things like campaigns, that videos
The
that came out
merchandise,
were
the visual
very
identity, yeah.
repetitive. Like it was like, oh yeah, we could do this, we'll do it. And I wanted to see a little bit more. And a lot of my art is actually birthed from what I want to see more than even whether it's needed or not, if that makes sense. So something can exist, it's perfectly working fine, everybody love it, and I might think, oh yeah, it could be done a little better, and then I'll push. So that's where videos came from. I feel like, well, I have a really good eye, I had a few other things, and I wanted to put it together and make something out of it.
Understood.
So it started off with doing short films, helping out. I do have eyes for angles and like setting up like the scene of how it should be. So I really play onto that. So even technically, I am probably a better character developer, set designer, creative director, better than I am a videographer or cinematographer.
Understood.
But because I know what I want to see and I can edit and I can do a few other things, it works out really. Once I have another extra hand or whatever. But it's something you'll be seeing a lot more. Like I've got a bunch of ideas with, like, my art is actually leaning closer to that going forward, because with video art, it's a way of getting my art everywhere, every day, without it being in a confined place. So like if I make a video art that's really good, it can be as, I can put my influence through adverts, I can use references to talk about certain things, I can have it easier to share, I can have it on social media. Why, even taking a picture of a painting and looking at that picture and looking at the painting are completely different things. The painting has its own feeling and its own life that you can only experience while you're with
Absolutely.
it. Which video doesn't hold that much depth, which means you
not the
can
same.
carry it in different places. So
In real life is real life.
yeah.
But if you want to have accessibility, you want to, you know, reach wider audiences.
It's absolutely necessary.
It's a very engaging format to do that. So my last question is, thank you, is how do you define success as an artist?
So again, two answers. I have to separate myself and from the artist. So for myself, in terms of actual success, it's a bit of a problem. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's something you continually would chase. There's always ways to adjust it. There's always this, that, and the third. And obviously depends on how ambitious you are. There's so many layers. And so for me, my personal journey to success, I'm not nowhere close to considering myself successful. I'm still very much in the struggle, but also like a lot of things, I actually plan my fingers. I want to be in the beginning, at least I want to start. I want to be able to show people that I do art and they think, oh good. Then I pray for these days, like, oh, I want to be in the struggle. I want to be able to go this, or how do you call it? Some people call it, I'm neither of these. So I'm not rich, famous, or famous broke. How do you call, you know, like when you're in the in-between stage where people assume that you have more than you should, or just assume you're doing way more than you should, or
Rich, poor,
or they may
poor,
assume that you're doing less when you're doing way more. Like I feel like I'm still in that stage, or I'm more so in that stage, on the later side of that stage, because Lord knows that it's gonna finish soon and we'll get big bags soon. That you gotta speak these things into existence.
Gotta speak in existence, gotta have that self-belief, Now catch him now. I'm gonna get one of his paintings and then, 4 years time.
What?
Ching ching.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah. That's so, I feel like that's for my personal life. But as an artist's success, it's way more simpler. If most people in their life are doing a job that they don't love, and it pays the bills, and you get the opportunity to do something you love that also pays the bills and gives you that added value of freedom, my friend, you're successful as an artist. In the world of 2022, you are a very successful artist. Doing what you want out of your creativity, and it's paying your bills, and you have the freedom to live, every other thing becomes an addition. Now, how successful can be a question. Oh, I did this collaboration, I did this, I did that. But the reality is you're already above the curve when you're already doing something you want, and it pays your bills.
Amen.
In London in 2022, cost of living is not a joke. Exactly.
And inflation.
So once you're able to actually do those, pay your bills, pay your rent, pay everything out of your creativity, you're already above the curve. Then the next part is, realistically, more than just pay your bills, can you live on this? And are you achieving the things you want to do? Like when I say achieving, I'm talking creatively now. Like, are you able to, oh yeah, I was drawing heads before, now I'm sculpting heads. Are you able to actually make that?
Create a proper film.
Yeah, that actually, yeah, oh, I was doing little things on my phone. Now I'm like, yeah, so if, oh, these people gave me money to go and shoot a film. I don't have no big pay from it, but I'm doing a bit of progress. Like you're seeing the progression in your actual creativity. That becomes so for me, it's almost like, as far as financial, everybody would love to sit down here and say, oh yeah, when you make this money, but for me, I'm not totally, I don't believe in struggling artists. I think if you're in a phase where it's struggling artists is people need to pay you so you can become an artist.
Hey, yeah.
Or you need to kind of like find a way to get to that position. I don't know if there's anything like preparing to struggle artists, but maybe you're preparing to struggle artists if you're not actually out there.
If you're going to struggle, you got to struggle for a reason.
Yeah.
Strategic.
So for a reason.
Strategic struggling.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how I feel. Like, I feel if you're able to just go past the stage where you're like, oh, please let me get this down and please let me get that. You're able to at least do things you care about and you can see how it would, you know, grow into something else, and you're able to go home and like, oh, I did this cool project and this, that's great. And then you have the money, that's also amazing. Then you have the ambition to follow, that's even better. Then the most important, the freedom. Like, I wrote that, well, I can't really recite the whole thing, but there's a poem I wrote and it's basically talking about artist struggle, or like the life of an artist. It referenced how broken crayons still color. And as an artist, even if you're broken, you can still create. But the reference in there as well is through it, I start talking about things like, what's an artist without freedom? Because if you don't have money and you're creating work and you have to create with the mentality of, oh, I'm making money to pay this or to sell this, and it's not necessarily creating with freedom. And if you're not creating with freedom, how much of that creating is artistic? Considering you can give anybody, a graphic designer or someone, the same kind of briefing you give an architect, or not even an architect, an electrician, and they'll come up with the same result when it comes to, oh, can you put this here? So if I'm painting or creating work as an electrician would, or plumber, like, oh, this is broken, can you fix it? Oh, this is going to be white, can you put a white something there? This is yellow, can you do yellow? Then it stops becoming creative. It becomes more like, you have a job, I give you the job, you have to do it. So I'm very keen on like being able to actually still have some creativity as part of your struggle. Like, even if you're not making big bags, at least be happy with what you're doing. At least know that it's challenging your brain and you're doing some creativity. So that's my when you're doing that, then you can say successful as an artist. But as far as me, as like my own personal life, I don't think I'm successful. But as an artist, yes, yet. But as an artist, I've checked the box. I'm like, a bit, even if I was earning like a 9 to 5, I would say I'm better than 9 to 5. Also, I think it's important to say that as well, because at the end of the day, everybody's got to pay a bill. And most people are so caught up in the struggling artists that they forget that there's a lot of us in between. Like, there is a whole phase of not struggling, but at the same time, maybe not earning millions.
Not like Kanye West.
Yeah.
But people are still making a living. That's why I'm doing the podcast, because people always see the anomalies, like, oh yeah, that's a billionaire. But there's people making a really good living. Good living
and freedom. So even if, imagine you were doing a job you didn't like and you didn't have freedom. But this one, you have the freedom and you might even be earning slightly more than the others. So that's really the whole thing about the so-called artist thing. So yeah, it's important for me to tell them that, yeah, it's not everybody that's in the broke, struggling phase. Like, I get to travel when I want. Sometimes I don't have to. Sometimes I don't have to check my account before I buy things. Only sometimes.
I need to
it's
rub off
important
him.
to say. It's important
I need that creative freedom. Okay, money.
But
where the money resides, where the money resides.
Yeah, that's where we're going, all of us.
It's all about where the money
That's where
resides.
we're going. We're not there, but we're going there.
He's there.
We're going there.
He's at the destination.
Yeah, I claim it, all of that. I claim it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is the end. So thank you very much, Sammy, for being part of the Black Creative Handbook at the studio visits. So where can we find you?
Name Sandy. I mean, to be honest, if you type in INxSANIxTY on Google, it gives you everything: website, Google, social medias, all of that. Even my studio address. Doesn't mean you can come without messaging me, but yeah.
Just be respectful of them. That's it. I know we're impeccably, but be respectful.
Nizzy in the place, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.